Here's what's coming up on today's show.
Know your goals. Know your cash flow. Let us help you measure using inflation and taxes against that. Those are all things that as you build out, you need to make sure that you have done well.
Welcome to the How Money Works podcast with Craig and Jennifer Moser of Maestro Wealth Advisors, serving you throughout the Triad of North Carolina for more than 30 years.
So your retirement foundation, some financial advisors, guys would say the foundation of a successful retirement is an income plan, right? You got to kind of start someplace. That seems like a good place for a good base. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, it propels your lifestyle.
I mean, when you look at it, you've got to think this through. You know, if we were only people that did investments, it'd be so much easier. We just buy you some investments and try to make you some money. Not that that's a bad thing, but we're financial planners. I'm a CFP. I'm not embarrassed about it. I'm pretty proud about it. We work towards a set of goals that you as our client give us. So it's different, you know. Then we individually tailor your investment approach to your goals. It's not the same for everybody. You just don't. You're not a moderate, a growth, or a moderately a conservative person. Your goals are something different than mine. If we're talking about income goals, though, it's one of the most crucial things you should decide on as you're planning for retirement. You know, for your entire working career, you have hopefully saved money into your various retirement savings accounts. So think this through. If you're honest with yourself, you probably have never, ever seriously considered taking money out of those accounts, have you?
You're like the sacred cow.
Yeah,
right?
It's sacred stuff. You know, and then what kind of account is it? For the most part, it's a retirement account, but nobody wants to take the money out. You know,
right.
Then that day happens where you are voluntarily and permanently unemployed. You quit. You're done. I retire. Well, and then you think about how much income can I take or create from the savings I've accumulated over all of these years? How long will my money last? So the income goal. I mean, think about it. You know, let's use an example. Let's say that you wanted a lifestyle of $100,000 a year after taxes, and you want that to go up with inflation every year. Well, let's think about how that happens. What's the tax cost going to be? Where does the money come from? Is it coming from your pre-tax 401k? Is it coming from your pre-tax IRA? So I'm just throwing numbers out. We can make this as hard as we want or as simple, but let's say you're in a 22% federal tax bracket. Then you toss in our friends at North Carolina for the state tax bracket. And if you want to keep $100,000, you're going to have to kick out over $136,000 to then pay the taxes and keep the $100,000.
So I think of that as your taxes really blow up or inflate your distribution of your retirement account. So the lower your taxes, the less inflated or extra dollars you've got to distribute from your account. In Craig's example, you know, you had basically a 26.5% tax rate, but you're pulling out a distribution rate of 36% of your money in order to satisfy Uncle Sam and your income goal. If you jump that tax rate from 26.5% to 28%, 2 points, your distribution rate goes from 36% to 39.9%. So it grows exponentially as the tax implications get potentially larger and larger. So you need to think about when you're creating the income goal.
So how much have you saved? There's the first question. Have you put enough back in there in different accounts to be able to give you the cash flow you need? The second thing to think about is what are other reliable, some people throw the word guaranteed, pick one of them, the money that you think is for sure going to come to you. That might be a pension, that might be Social Security, not so much the real estate because that can vary some, but we'll throw that in there. And the two big problems people have with planning for income during a retirement spanning somewhere between 20 to 30 years after work is first, how do taxes impact the income that I'm wanting? And second, let's face it, things cost more than they did a year ago. Things cost more than they did 10 years ago. So thinking that the $100,000 today is going to be able to buy the same amount of stuff in 10 years, don't kid yourself, it's not. So if you're looking at your income without considering inflation, you're making a mistake, bluntly said. I don't know how to say it nicely. So if you use an inflation assumption of 3%, then next year you're going to need $103,000 after taxes. The next year, you're going to need $106,990 and so on and so forth. That grows a lot. So how are you planning for this additional need? Do you have the software to be able to predict what it will cost in 10 years to buy the same thing it costs today at some inflation rate? We do. It's important to think about tax cost and rising inflation as you're looking at your goals to quit work and retire and live the way you want to. Not say, oh, I can probably get by and I'm not going to do much travel because I don't have any money, but actually, what do you want? And then we can help you to measure against what you've done so far and what you need to do to get you where you need to be.
And we're talking about this retirement income goal and how we create that income. Craig, you talked about kind of the things to think about as once you've got that goal in mind, what we need to do. We need to make sure we have inflation. We make sure we need to take care of the tax consequences. But really the hardest question is having that client sit across from us and them telling you, this is the income I want, because I've really never thought about it. They know what they're currently getting from their paycheck. They have to determine what is it that they really need in retirement. What do they need to cover for their needs and their wants? That's a very hard number for them to come at. How many people do you think come in with they know exactly what their income goal is?
Maybe half. Maybe half come in and say, I want this. And then after we discuss it, sometimes they change it higher. Sometimes they're okay with it. Very seldom do they come in and say right up front, I want to reduce it. Mm-hmm. You know, it's usually, well, I didn't think about that. And you know, do I still have a house payment? Do I need to throw that in on top of it? Yeah, that's cash flow. Mm-hmm. So we have to work through and build the numbers out.
So the first run that we do when you come in with that income goal and looking at where your assets are is we run the analysis to say, okay, is this going to work with where you say your income is? And that's where the non-voluntary reduction come, right? Because if there's a shortfall in that income, then there's only three things you can do: work longer, save more, or spend less. Right, in retirement, have a smaller goal. So then we work those numbers and we look at where you have pension or Social Security, those guaranteed income streams, or rental income, and then we've got to fill in that base with the amount of stuff that you've accumulated, whether it's taxable account, Roth account, pre-tax account, or whatever, and generating that income.
And how do we make it pay you income for as long as you live? Because, you know, a lot of people think, oh, the 4% rule, I'll just take 4% out. I can make that work. Really? Can you make that work in the future? You know, a lot of it is dependent on what the market does. A lot of it is dependent on how the cash flow within your investments work. There's a lot of ifs in there. So you, in my opinion, should work with someone like us because we are comfortable with doing this type of planning. I've been doing this since the late 80s. I hate to say that sometimes, but I say it. I'm experienced. Mark, shut up. Anyway, I mean, I've done it a long time, and so we are comfortable working in this space. You know, one of the things that people ask me all the time is, why are so many people unprepared in this area, you know, retirement planning? Well, I mean, I'll give you my examples. Let's say you're an engineer or a physician. How much training do you have in retirement planning if you're one of those? Let me reverse that. I can absolutely assure you that I'm ill-equipped to do surgery on you, so I'm no physician, nor can I design a spaceship. So let's be real. What you're trained in is what you do. Very rarely do you see an engineer that's also a great physician. I'll make that up. You know, so the same thing for financial planning. You have to have experience and training in that particular area. I mean, like I said, I'm a CFP with 35 years of hands-on experience. These are important things. So let's back into this. Know your goals. Know your cash flow. Let us help you measure using inflation and taxes against that. Those are all things that as you build out, you need to make sure that you have done well.
What's next?
Well, a lot of times people say, okay, I heard you on the radio. What do I do? I mean, do I just show up at the office and we shake hands and you make the magic stuff happen? And the answer is no.
You're busy. You're a little busy.
So think about, here we are close to taxes. You know, everybody is getting all their 1099s together. Their W-2s are coming in. They're looking for any sources of income. They're saying, have I got some expenses? So you're gathering all your data. Okay, so that's similar to what you should do for us. Gather all your statements. Go to Social Security and get their incoming cash flow at all of the ages starting either at 62 or if you're older than that, your current age. You're going to need that to determine your best choice for when Social Security should be turned on. So if you have a pension, a lot of people still do, same exercise. How much will I get for just my age, just my life and just my age? But what if I am married? How much would it cost me off of my pension to be able to spread that over the life of my spouse? It's important to them, especially if something happens to you. How do I make this income last for, in my case, for Jennifer? That's a pension conversation. Then you need to look at all of your stuff, your assets, your liabilities. A liability would be like the mortgage you have on your house. Do you want to carry that bad boy into retirement or not? We have to plan for that. Credit cards, things like that. Now you're ready for us to start to work on an analysis. So once we know, basically, I hate to say this bluntly, what you have and what you want, your income goal, now all of a sudden the analysis will allow us to do those measurements for you. We do several, so you can have a look into the future under a lot of different scenarios. Let's say, for example, we're kind of close on the income goal. The percentage of probability of success is a little low, and we say, what if we turn Social Security on 3 years earlier at 67 instead of 70? Does that help us to bridge that gap? Does it make enough difference to not do it or do it versus just saying, okay, you have to take it at 70. That's the best choice. Kind of is if you live a long time. But the other side of it is, do we need that cash flow so that we can leave your money alone for a little while? Those are things that we want to look at. Once we run through this, you start to see running different scenarios. And again, we'll go through them with you, and it's kind of a pain. I hate to say it. It's sort of like going to the CPA or something like that, because they ask a lot of questions. But at the end of it, you have a better grasp of what will work and what won't. And so then after that, okay, we can help to build a real plan for you at that point.
I think running the analysis, first of all, you were talking about everything to gather. We provide you a checklist and a form to fill out to help gather that information. So, if you're taking notes, you don't need to. All you need to do is say, I'm ready to get started, and we send you that checklist and an organizer. But the analysis really starts painting a picture of your potential financial view going forward, and it shows vulnerability and potential weaknesses. And that's important because you need to know where you're vulnerable and weak, so then you can shore those things up before they become a problem in your retirement plan. Some people are wonderful and they have no vulnerabilities, and it's really kind of hard to improve what they're currently doing, and we'll tell you that. If you're on the right track and there's really nothing we can do, we'll tell you that. Otherwise, we're going to show you some things that maybe, have you thought about this? Does it make you uncomfortable if you haven't covered that? And then we'll work on those solutions for you.
Thank you so much for checking out the podcast today. If you have any questions about what we've discussed, remember, you can get a complimentary financial review with the team at Maestro Wealth Advisors by calling 336-448-1086 or go online to howmoneyworksradio.com for other great resources and ways to reach the team. You can also check the show notes of today's episode for our contact information as well. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite app so you never miss an episode. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and all the most popular apps. For Craig and Jennifer Moser, I'm Mark Killian. We'll talk to you next time on the How Money Works podcast.
Craig Moser is a financial advisor and certified financial planner. Securities offered through Avantax Investment Services, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Avantax Advisory Services. Insurance services offered through Avantax Affiliated Insurance Agency.